Yeah, I mean, they've actually been huge helpers in the process. And last year, when I did Queering History, which was sort of a similar experience, they were sort of very instrumental in getting the performers together and in getting the actual, show on its feet, or on its feet. It was a stage reading, but getting the folks there and making sure that everything was together and was ready to go. And it's really awesome to be able to sort of harness the enthusiasm of the Broadway community and also, I think, just the sort of natural empathy that actors bring to all of the work that they do, and to let them perform alongside of these young people who have never even seen a Broadway show, much less been able to perform on stage with Broadway performers. We left last year sort of feeling like it was a good experience for everyone involved, where I think a lot of the Broadway actors left with more knowledge about an organization that they hadn't known about, and young people who are in the community and who are in the world that they didn't have any reference point for. And certainly the young people, one of them at the end of it was like, I feel like I made it to Broadway. I know it's not Broadway, but I feel like I made it to Broadway. So I feel like mostly I'm really lucky, partially because I feel like more than anything, they understand the work that I do, and they are so supportive of it. If they were not as supportive as they are, I think that I would have a much harder time doing the work that I do, just because it is much less glamorous and is, sort of a very grassroots sort of thing. And you don't necessarily get the prestige and get the rewards that you get performing on Broadway, but you certainly get the rewards of, working with young people whose lives you can change and working with old people whose lives you can change. And I think that they totally understand that and have been so incredibly supportive in me sort of finding my own niche and in enjoying seeing that and coming to things that I get to do and also being a part of them. Well, my parents, I'm a fourth generation Detroiter, and my parents were very progressive, very in the sort of liberal political scene in Detroit, and basically decided that they wanted to raise their kids in Detroit because if a revolution was ever going to get started, it was going to happen there. And, we weren't allowed to eat sugar, we weren't allowed to watch TV, like all of the things that were sort of seen as bad or, negative influences were sort of, pushed to the side, and instead we were really encouraged to be imaginative and to perform and to play with cardboard boxes and things like that, which I at the time did not like, but certainly appreciate nowadays. And I think ultimately, more than anything, they instilled in us a very distinct sense of justice and of how important it is to be good people and to do good for the world. Instilled a sense of social justice and of wanting to, do bigger things with not only our lives but outside of us. Oh, it was totally Celia. My parents, my mom was a kindergarten teacher and my dad is a Detroit city planner. So neither of them had any sort of background in theater or any, really, driving force to get us there. But Celia saw Sound of Music when she was 6 and decided that she wanted to do it. Since my brother and I basically, worshipped the ground that she walked on, because she was a pretty amazing older sister, we were both like, yeah, we want to do that too. And so, started out doing community theater where we all had like one line and, we're sort of background whatevers. And luckily my parents were incredibly supportive without being pushy at all, where they were always like, the second you don't want to do this, just let us know. And we'll support you until you're tired of it, basically. And we never got tired of it. So for better or for worse. I mean, I feel like that was kind of the like dream, the thing that we all really hoped would be the case. And I think we're so incredibly lucky that we've been able to be here and to be around each other and to be able to sort of, each find our own places in the Broadway community, in sort of the activism community, all around. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like growing up, I was definitely the kid who was like, 1 week I wanted to be a poet, and then the next week I wanted to, bag groceries at Kroger. Like, my sort of imagination was always thinking about all the things that I could do in different jobs and in different things. And I think theater is one of those amazing places where you're allowed to do all those different things, where I can write and I can perform and I can talk about sex and I can do so many things with it, and so it's sort of the ideal situation to keep me excited and to keep me engaged. I mean, I feel like, so I went to Oberlin College for undergrad, and Oberlin is very, very progressive, very much a hippie school. People there talk about sex a lot, and I think there's a really like exciting and very sort of sex positive community there that sort of fosters this idea that that those things that we don't talk about are actually really important to talk about. And I think that I definitely, sort of growing up and being LGBT, where I had to sort of figure everything out for myself because I didn't have this sort of template to go by that I think most heterosexual people have. And so pretty soon realized that, like, because I had to figure it out for myself, I could also talk to other people about it and could, communicate it in ways that other people didn't necessarily have opportunities to. And I think it's really interesting. I think that, a lot of my work centers on things that are sort of kept secret or that are seen as shameful or seen as, just not things you discuss in polite conversation. And I think I really enjoy sort of turning that on its head and being like, no, actually, the secrecy surrounding it and the shame surrounding it is making life less fun for everyone. And it's really important that we put this in a public place, that we put this in a way that's not scary and is not like, all STIs and HIV and getting pregnant and things, but is also talking about the positive parts of sex and sexuality and the exciting things that can be gained from it. And I mean, I think partially too, just the response has been so overwhelming, where it's so clear that people want to be able to talk about sexuality and people want to be able to ask questions and to have discussions. But we don't have many venues for that in our country. There aren't many places you can go and just sit and chat about sex and sexuality in a way that's not, just sort of bragging or being scared of it or whatever. And so I think it's definitely also just been fueled by the clear need that exists. Well, I mean, I feel like my sort of stock answer to that is that the things that were really hard for me when I was a teenager are now the things that I'm getting scholarships for, where I've basically been able to sort of fund my education and to be able to develop this practice that allows me to work with young LGBT people and allows me to work in places where I can talk about sex and sexuality to people who need it. And it's all because I went through those really hard things as a young person. And I think that when you're 14 or 15, like, there's nothing that you can say that will make it better by any means. And I think that really my biggest thing is to be able to be in the communities and to be there as a person who is openly gay and is, relatively secure and successful and can be sort of a person who people can come to, or at least, know that they exist, because I think that we don't have enough of those people in our world. We have. When we were younger, we did quite a few, actually. I think probably the most amusing, and we talked about this in our concert, actually, was I must have been 11. My brother was probably 10, and so Celia was like 17. And we all auditioned for the Secret Garden. And I was auditioning for Mary, Andrew was auditioning for Colin, and Celia was auditioning for Martha. And we got the phone call, and the director was like, we would love for Maggie to be Mary and Andrew to be Colin, and Celia will be playing Betsy the maid, who is like this character who has like one line and just sort of moves scenery. And Celia was just over it. So maybe we should do a remount of Secret Garden where Celia actually gets to play Martha. I think Andrew and I are a little too old for the Colin and Mary parts, but we can pretend. Oh, I always loved it. I mean, it was the sort of thing where, going into the first rehearsal, you always had someone by your side and always had sort of someone in your corner. Andrew and I did a lot of sort of bad hair dyeing because a lot of times we were playing people who weren't supposed to be siblings. And often their solution was like, oh, just make Andrew's hair darker and it will be fine. And I mean, we looked like twins sort of growing up. And so it was kind of a ridiculous and futile endeavor, but it was so much fun to be able to have them, either of them in the show as well. I feel like as of today, my ideal situation would be to probably be a professor at a college doing applied theater work. So doing sort of the work that I do, theater for social change, and teaching it to undergraduates or graduates. And then being able to run my own theater company where I can sort of keep doing the work that is really exciting and engaging, and keep working with the people and the communities who I love to work with, yeah, being happy and fulfilled and creative and all those good things.